So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this webinar about Universidad Católica de Murcia and their dentistry programs taught in English. My name is Mark Huntington. I'm the Managing Director of A Star Future. We send quite a few British and Irish students predominantly, but people from all around the world actually, to universities in other countries, including UCAM. This evening, we're joined by Paul O'Donnell, who is responsible for the Anglophone countries. Is that how you describe your role?
Hi everyone, good evening. Yes, absolutely. And you can hear my Italian colleague. You can hear my Italian colleague now as well. So we're a big team, international team. I actually deal with maybe English-speaking countries, so that can be UK, Commonwealth, Ireland, so Australia, Malta, funny bits and pieces around like Jamaica and the Bahamas, even though they don't feel funny, but you know what I mean. But USA, Canada, but I also have Northern Europe, so I'm dealing with the Low Countries, the Netherlands, Denmark, Germany, and the Nordic countries. So quite an interesting collection, and I love to get out and about. I can't at the moment, but it's great we're using other ways and means to project and get to know you, and for you to get to know us. So my name is Paul O'Donnell. As I said, I'm now with the university about 20 years. Coming up this year. So I've seen it grow because it's only 26 years old. I've seen it grow amazingly, exponentially in that time by doing good things, by doing correct things. Obviously, it wouldn't grow otherwise. So one of those is providing very, very good courses and training very, very good professionals. So I'll talk a bit about that as well. Also, internationalization, which is why I'm speaking to you in English from a Spanish university. And about our courses in English, I'll talk about that as well. So that's a bit about the university. It's a Catholic school in the south of Spain, in Murcia, which is beside Alicante. So it's got good connections, really. To be honest, it also has its own airport with a lot of connections to the UK as well. But so it's not it's a small scale city, but I think that has lots of advantages when you're studying, because really you have to get stuck into your studies. So I think the bigger cities can be a bit of a distraction and a bit of also more costly and a bit more of a time consuming commute. But anyway, so that's a bit about us. And then I'll put it back to Mark.
Okay, thanks very much, Paul. Obviously, you're going to hear a whole lot more about him and the dentistry faculty and all the rest of it in a moment. But just before we get stuck into that, I am just going to now run through a very, very quick presentation. You haven't come here to listen to me speak predominantly, but I'm aware of that. But I just wanted to explain a little bit about who we are, what our role in all of this is, how we can help you. As you've already seen, my name is Mark Huntington. My organization is A Star Future. And basically what we do is provide students with information about English taught higher education in Europe and further afield. Now, this is not just medical and dental schools. This is all sorts of different options. But as it turns out, dentistry in Spain has been one of the most popular ones with us consistently for about the last 8 years. And as Paul is saying, his university has changed a lot over the 20 odd years he's been there. Dentistry in Spain has also changed quite a bit as well. A few years back, there were, well, no options teaching in English, but we're now at the point where actually, when you look at European countries that have dental schools teaching in English, Spain is now the biggest one of the lot, really, obviously excluding the UK. There are 8 dental schools in Spain. Well, I say 8 dental schools. 2 of those are the UCAM campuses. Some universities have multiple campuses, but there are 8 places where you can study dentistry in Spain in English, including 2 which are half in English, but that's not UCAM. UCAM is entirely in English, which means that, that puts it above Poland, Czech Republic, all other places, really. So that's part of the reason why we are focused on Spanish dental schools. The other reason, of course, is that they are, I don't want to say easier to get into. They tend not to have entrance exams and complications like that, but they are easier to graduate from without too many difficulties, that's for sure. So I'd just like to touch very briefly on a few things that you should be thinking about when looking at dental schools abroad anyway. I put up on this slide a picture of UCAM's dental clinic right in the center of Murcia. This is from a few years ago when I believe it was brand new, but it is an excellent new facility in the center of the city. I'm sure Paul's going to show you the inside in a moment. But if you are thinking about dentistry abroad, the first thing I'd encourage you to do is really think about the fact that you are going to be living in another country for 5, sometimes occasionally 6 years. That does mean learning another language. It does mean, changing your life to a quite significant extent. And for British students as well, there's the added complication of Brexit. I'm happy to touch on this if you have any questions about it later, but all I can really say is that the GDC's position on this for people who will graduate when you would graduate is not yet known. It is going to be easily a year, probably closer to 18 months, I think, before we'll have a clear answer to what's going to happen with European qualifications. I am not expecting any terrible news, but I can't give you any promises. That's just, the nature of this situation. In terms of entry requirements, well, tonight, obviously, we are focusing on UCAM rather than any other school. So I am going to say biology, chemistry, and one other A level are the ones that you need to get in. But every school is slightly different. But UCAM would certainly be looking at 3 A levels at around ABB. I don't want to put words into Paul's mouth. I'm sure he will elaborate on that. Leaving cert or anything like that will be good scores, H1s and H2s in biology, chemistry, no problem at all. Below that, we'll have to see. Other things to take into consideration, obviously money. How much is it going to cost? Now, I will say, because I know this is going to come up time and again, that scholarships really don't exist. And the dental schools in Spain that are teaching in English are all private institutions. Now, some of them charge more than other ones. I would say as a general rule of thumb, but by no means always true, the Catholic universities tend to be more manageable from a financial perspective, like at the lower end of the range. But basically, Spanish dental schools tend to charge somewhere between about 14 and 21,000 euros a year. The other thing I will say is this has been a very unusual year in terms of when universities are getting full. This time last year, none of the dental schools were full, and we were able to get people in through June, July, even a few on results day. That's different this year. We're already in a situation where most dental schools are full, and UCAM, we're not talking a huge amount of places left here either, handful, if that. So, you probably are going to have to act on this quite soon if you're looking to study in 2021. Another reason why you need to get your act together perhaps a little bit earlier than you might have been able to do in previous years is due to the fact that you're going to need, if you are British and only have a British passport, you are going to need a visa this year. We are making investigations into how this is going to work. We don't think it's going to be tremendously difficult for British students to get it. But, the sooner you start, the better, I would suggest. So anyway, that was really just an attempt to make you aware of a few of the major issues that you might come up when you are starting to look at studying dentistry in Spain. I put up our ACE.future and also our studyincroatia.eu websites on this slide, along with my email and Twitter addresses. You are welcome to contact me through any of those at any time. For tonight, if you do want to get hold of us, please use the Q&A mechanism and we will answer any questions that you might have. But I'm now going to ask Paul to contribute and to tell you a little bit more about the university.
First of all, I want to sing Mark's praises. I really enjoy working with people like Mark. He knows what he's doing. He's always been very upfront and honest with me in all aspects, and I really appreciate that. We have a very nice relationship. Obviously, we're not the only university in the world, but I always like to thank Mark for considering UCAM and knowing, as he does, he's been on the campus, he's visited us, and so I would like to just salute Mark and say thank you for that, and it's always a pleasure to work with him. Okay, so he went through some points which I found very interesting as well, and I also have a view on them because, obviously I'm dealing with UK students, and I've seen some developments, and I'm really interested in to see what they will further develop into. But all I can say is, for example, that you can come to Spain on your tourist visa if you can travel. Well, obviously COVID is another issue, but if you can travel without a student visa, you can do it here. So that is one back door, but we really want to avoid it if we can, because basically you have to do everything you have to do here that you would have done in London. But in London or in the other consulates, it's easier to do it. You can access documentation and your friendly networks and things. So, but there is a bit of a back door there, okay? So anyway, so I just wanted to share my screen and kick off a bit about showing what we are and where we are. You can actually see, I put my background, that's a part of the campus, that's one side of it. We're in an 18th century Baroque building, the monastery and temple building of San Jeronimo, so Saint Jerome, in about 6 kilometers outside the city of Murcia. So that building has been here for 3 centuries, and it's had many functions, and many orders have passed through it. And as I said, back in 1996, it was fairly falling into ruin, and so the university founded it. Was founded and used it as its base, and so it restored it to its complete and utter beauty. And I'm now going to share the screen and show you a bit about that. Okay, so let's see. Okay. So here we go. I wanted to do a bit of the virtual tour. This is on our web page, okay? And they have birds singing in it, okay? So it's a nice sound. If it doesn't load very quickly or at all, sometimes it's quite heavy, we can just use the images. Now, as you can see, these are some of the places that UCAM has, okay? We have the football stadium, for example, for our football team. So that's why the Estadio de Condamina is there. And that's a municipal stadium that we're the tenants there. We've done it up in our livery. We have a very good football team in the 3rd division of La Liga. It used to be the 2nd division, one down from Barcelona and Real Madrid. So that's an incredible aspect of the university, but it's another thing to talk about on another day. So we have our 2 campuses, Murcia and Cartagena. So we have dentistry in both. So Mark was mentioning about the places, and obviously it's a good time to think about UCAM because we have doubled our capacity, and we now have 40 places in Cartagena, and those will be normally where these places are up for grabs for the moment, shall we say. So anyway, we look at our other campus, which is Murcia. So this is where I am at the moment. Okay, so so here we go. So this is a bird's eye view from right on top of the building. So it's a bit, for those with vertigo, can be quite a shock. Okay, but anyway, you can see that it's a beautiful monastery building here. The bell towers to one side, then the dome of the temple. It's called a temple for reasons that religious reasons, but it's more a church. So you can see that this is the area around the university, and over here, we 6 kilometers away is the city of Murcia. Okay, so so obviously it's not a big commute. There's good connections with the tram and the bus. Okay, so anyway, our campus is quite compact. We've run out of land from the original land grant of 3 centuries ago, and we've built all around, and we'll build further over here. We've more. We're waiting for permission to build. But meanwhile, what we have on campus is state-of-the-art facilities for our students. And so for technical courses like psychology and dentistry and pharmacy, obviously we have a lot of simulation rooms, a lot of laboratories. And so that's where you spend your first 2 years as a dental student. You will spend in our labs, in our libraries, in our classrooms, really getting to grips with the heavy lifting, of the sciences. I mean, these are good scientific medical courses, so they really have to be worked out, and we really have to put you through your paces at the beginning. So that's the same for any medical qualification. So I just want to show you some of maybe the simulation rooms that we use for the hospital, for the nursing students, to give you an indication of how UCAM approaches its teaching, having the best equipment it can have for its students. Okay, so this would be the room where the class are. Okay, and they're looking at some of their classmates in another room. Okay, so there we go. That's the other room. So okay, we go into the simulation room of a hospital. Okay, we'll just click on that. This will be obviously for nursing students, doctors, physio. They're all using these facilities as well. But it's a good indication. The dental students won't use it so much. But for example, everything in this room is what you can find in a clinic. Okay, not exactly a hospital room, but a clinic. So all these presses are full of equipment. So what happens is a student or two would come in and would be faced with a situation of a mannequin in the bed. Okay, and the mannequin is controlled by in a third room by the teacher. The teacher can make it talk, make it move. It has life signs. It's plugged in. It has pulse. It has everything. You can take samples. So generally, it's just like a situation in any hospital. If you are a nurse or a doctor and you're going into a room, there's something peeping, something beep 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 beep. You don't know what's going on. The patient maybe can't react. You have to figure out very quickly what to do, and that's very important in the health and professions. So this is the best way to approach those situations that you will encounter in real life every day by practicing them, simulating them. And this is what we do. So the students go in, they don't know what's happening, and eventually they will, bit by bit, get towards where they have to go. Obviously, at the beginning, it's hard, but as you go through the simulations, you just gain experience. You know exactly what to do in these situations, or that's what we want you to be able to do by the time you get to the clinical parts, where you actually spend a lot of our courses finish practically entirely in clinical situations. So we have mannequins who are male or female. They can be pregnant women. They can be babies, as you can see over there. So generally, this is just an indication of how we operate. As a private school, we invest very heavily in very good infrastructure to make sure that our students who are coming here, they're paying a lot of money, are getting value for their money. They're becoming very well trained professionals. So anyway, so this is a way we work. So afterwards, the students would all look at a recording of what happened. They'll figure out with the teacher, the lecture, what was good, what maybe could be improved. It's a very positive way of learning. It's not about mistakes. It's about attitudes and behavior and rational thinking, and how to approach a solution from wherever you find yourself. Okay, so that's a bit about the hospital simulation room. So now, obviously, of more interest would be, whoops, we've come out, would be the clinic, okay, our dental clinic. For our dental students, will spend, as I said, the first 2 years on the campuses, okay, getting to grips with the heavy lifting, as I said. But from third year onwards, and I know that as well, Mark mentioned English and the language. It is 100% in English for exams, for theoretical parts. But as you start getting towards the third year, like in any overseas school, you'll start to encounter patients, and they're not going to learn English to talk to you. So you're going to have to learn Spanish to talk to them. And that is not a big ask. Once you have mentally associated that in your mind, your mind will start working on acquiring Spanish if you don't have it already. And a lot of students who are coming to us have already, have some exposure to Spanish, and that helps. The more you have before you come, the more quickly you can expand. But 2 years is not a bad time frame for you to get to conversational Spanish, and that's that's all we expect. So we expect you to be at the beginning of third, when they're moving into the more practical parts, to be able to understand what the patient is saying. You will probably just be observing. And then as you further interact, you will have to interact with the patient, and you will have to report to our lecturers to say what happened in Spanish. So I think that's fair enough, because in the end of the day, what you're doing is becoming a Spanish dentist. Really, you have a dental degree from Spain, and you can go straight to work in Spain, for example. Now we'll talk a bit later with Mark about how that is translated into qualifications anywhere else. But basically, you are a trained dentist. No one can take that away from you. You know exactly what to do, and you're very well trained as well, as Mark has been telling me, and they're very accepted in the UK and around the world for the excellence of the way that it's taught here. They're private schools, so really they are trying to create very good professionals with very good infrastructure, like as we are. So this is our kind of okay. We can do the tour. I think, is it a 3D tour? Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh, maybe that wasn't such a great idea. But anyway, okay. So lead your future. Okay, it's in Spanish a bit. Actually, there's two language courses in dentistry in first and second year, one each. They're about the jargon of Spanish dentistry. You have to finish them and can successfully pass them in order to go to the practical parts. Okay, here's the patients. It's an actual working clinic. Okay, so as you can see, people are waiting to go in. So it's been very successful, actually. So we have a constant on-stream tap of patients for our students. So we don't have to rely on clinics. Actually, I think I won't do the 3D tour. It seems to be a bit slow. So this infrastructure used to be a former supermarket. It's obviously a very extensive um, square footage. It has over 30 cubicles. It has working labs. It has classrooms. It has a coffee machine, which is, in great use. Okay, so we go to the dental clinic here. So so it's a private enterprise as well. So we have our patients, and so we can guarantee that our students will have, um, you know, the um, the ability to be able to treat and to meet patients and be in a clinical environment. So here we go. You can see this is the floor space that we have. Just one part of it. Off all of this are different labs and rooms and private kind of patient areas for different areas. So you can see that each and every one of the areas here is really state of the art. The equipment is the best that was on the market at the time, and we really invest. We reinvest all the time. We never leave things to go too obsolete and to get worn out. We replace it. And that's what a private school does. So here we go. Here's the postgraduate area as well. So you can see that it's a state of the art. This is really what you need to be using and seeing, and later on you'll be, absolutely very well prepared for the working world. We have X-rays here. We have everything. It's a working clinic. It's a mini dental hospital, should we say? Actually, to be honest. So we have our X-ray areas. We have labs for do analysis. Really, it goes on and on. Everything you need to treat dental patients, we have here. So, and very good staff. They're normally excellent professionals who came to teaching as professionals rather than the other way around. They didn't stay in academia. They didn't finish school and then start teaching. They were professionals and they came on board. So we can have a look at so let's see over here maybe. Okay, so I don't want to really show too much of this. But anyway, so this will be a private room. This is where you treat a private patient maybe who's not with the maybe on a Saturday when there's no students. Okay, so anyway, as I said, as you can see, the equipment here is second to none. Really is state of the art, and so that's how the university likes to work. Okay, so that's a bit about the dental clinic. Now we have a testimonial from a lovely Indian student who came along a couple of years ago. So let's just hear from him for a sec. Okay.
He's silent, Paul. Can you figure out how to make him sound?
Sorry?
The video is playing silently. I don't know if there's anything you can touch to
Oh,
it.
wow, it's okay, hang on. Oh. Is it silent? Can you not hear it? Oh, that's a shame. I'm not sure. I mean okay. Let's see. Oh, I have it on. Sorry, guys. Okay, perhaps in that case, for some technical reason, you're unable to hear the video, but I can pass it to you. Okay, so that would be something we can look at a bit later. But anyway, Jaden is having a great time. Maybe he's from India. Okay, so let me use that opportunity to talk a bit. I'll probably just stop the sharing now. No, but I can actually maybe I will go back actually for another reason and just have images where I'm when I'm talking. So I can go back to oh, it's very hard to. Okay, let's see. Go to the tour. Sorry about this. Now, okay, so let's have a look at perhaps the pharmacy clinic, for example. But that's not really why I'm doing it. But okay, anatomy room. So here's what is what our pharmacy students would be approaching as well. A very typical approach from us is to have our own pharmacy and a working pharmacy. So it's a simulation, and but people do come along and real clients, come to the university. The staff of the university, the students, and they can interact with students of pharmacy in a real live environment, obviously supervised by the staff. But eventually those students will go and do internships and do practicums in real situations and will pass through all the professional areas they have to in order to qualify. So that's pharmacy is also in English here. We're very, very strong in health sciences. We have the whole gamut except for veterinary, and we're looking at veterinary in English, but that could be just the final one that we need. We have medicine, nursing, physio, nutrition, health science, nursing, on and on and on. So dentistry, as you know, pharmacy, and of course psychology as well, which has been a huge success this year. Fantastic, fantastic group, and they're really enjoying themselves. So I just want to maybe go to the dental clinic because we're really focusing maybe a bit on dentistry today. So here's some nice images that you couldn't, maybe it was harder to kind of perceive as I was making you all dizzy with the presentation. So here's the reception, the cubicles, as I was saying. So okay, so Jaden's from India. Now we have I'm part of a team. Okay, the international delegate. So when Mark is talking about places, I have certain places, but I have a limit to them. That's why there's only a certain amount. There might be more places, but my colleagues will be dealing with those. Each of the courses on both campuses has 40 students with a very nice breakdown of 5 Italians, 5 French, and then I normally with my colleague from Eastern Europe as well. So we're talking maybe people from the Baltic countries, from Poland, so from Russia, Ukraine, but also from my area, from Northern Europe, and from the Americas and UK and Ireland. There's 10 to 12, okay, in each class, and then the rest would be from the Middle East, from Jordan, from the Emirates, some great students coming from there. So really international there, from India, from China, from Taiwan. Taiwan was a big surprise for me. That really interested in studying here. So that'll make it a very nice international environment. So 40 students, you really click very quickly. You start to get into the swing of the routine. You're so busy so quickly that you become comrades in arms. You're really just getting stuck in there with the level of work that is required. That really it is a wonderful enterprise, and it's something that just sweeps you away, and it's incredible. And people are like, oh my god, it's already Easter, and this sort of thing. So it really is. So anyway, so that's why, I mean, that's those 40 people become really your brothers in arms, your sisters and brothers in arms, and you really kind of gel very well. So they're very different backgrounds. As I said, I've got 4 Canadians coming this year for, so that was a great thing. Last year we had an American. We have people from various parts of the world, and I'm always trying to put in, I get a lot of German dental technicians who have actually finished their studies, but maybe want to continue. They don't want to be technicians their whole lives, and they have very good experience. So they're very good people to know. Okay, so anyway, so that's a typical background as well. So here we go. The clinic is just something else. So. And of course, it's a working clinic, and the students will be very much involved with what's going on. Okay, so maybe I'll stop sharing now. So that's we can see Jaden. So okay, back to live here with us guys. All right. So perhaps I won't. I can throw it over to Mark for a moment, but I was maybe going to mention a couple of other points.
Okay. Well, look, Paul, I mean, what I'd like to do now is just sort of move on to some of the more nuts and bolts issues of it. I mean, I think most people by now will be reassured that you have an excellent dental facility in Murcia and in Cartagena. The clinic in Cartagena is being built right now, or will be built in time for the students, because it's a
Absolutely,
little bit.
absolutely. The clinic in Murcia did not exist till the students in Spanish, which was the first students to get to the third year, needed it, and when they reached third year, there was the clinic. So we'll do the same for Cartagena. We'll have a very good clinic there. I'm sure they're already scouting and now, and they'll soon start to actually do it, because we had our first year last year there, and they're going very well. They're just coming to the end of their first year exams, and they've been. Having a very good time. I had one student. I was hoping she would come along today, but I think they're so busy. It's very hard to tear this dental students away from their workloads. They didn't even want to come to the presidential welcome. They had an exam the next day, and we could only bribe them with so many T-shirts. but they prefer the grades. But anyway, so she for example went to Cartagena and was a bit anxious. It was a new situation for her, but within a week she was telling me that she was so happy. And so I think either in Murcia or the Cartagena campuses, that's the situation. You soon lose, that feeling of being, oh, it's just me, and then you're just into the swing of it with the teams, with your classmates. So
Right. But it does seem to me, and I mean, obviously, well, let me put it this way. In comparison with some of the dental schools I work with in Spain, you take a lot more care over the makeup of your class in the sense that you're looking for the United Nations in a classroom, rather than some of them will end up, dominated by British students or by Taiwanese, as two examples that I am aware of. But in any situation, you're unlikely to be the only Brit or the only Irish, but you're also unlikely to be one of 10, are you? It sounds like that seems to be the
no,
way.
no, absolutely, and I try and balance it. I'm now moving. I finished really Murcia, but even before that, I was trying to have some of my German technical dental technicians in each one. At least two of them. So that they wouldn't all be front loaded in one area. So I was already trying to do that, and absolutely, the balance is quite good that way, and it's worked on by the university. Later on at some stages, there's maybe one or two Spanish people come in as well. So you never know at the end of right at the end when there'll be a few last minute changes. But we don't we don't generally want Spanish students, not for any other reason except that we have dentistry in Spanish, so that's where they should go. So we're really trying to compartmentalize it, and internationals in the international course and Spanish in the Spanish course. But of course, there are a few Italians in the Spanish course and some Italians in the English course. I know some, sorry, the other way around. So some Spanish in the English course and some Italians in the Spanish course. So that just happens. They're more comfortable with the languages. And a lot of Spanish as well are very international in schools, and so that's how it works out as well. So, but generally, it's a very international makeup, and that's what we're working towards. Maybe it's a good time to approach the idea of internationalization. So, the university really started to seriously internationalize about 8 years ago. We found some Italians studying physio, and we're like, well, what are they doing here? So that started a whole ball rolling. And internationalization does not have to mean courses in English entirely. So we're talking about South Americans, for example, which is a very interesting area for us. So we have 4 team members there. So obviously they'll study in Spanish, but they're international students. So the Italians and the French as well are very flexible between Spanish or English. Again, internationals, but maybe not perhaps in Spanish, or in English. So, but of course, when you start to project in the world, in Asia and Africa and Eastern Europe and the Middle East, you need courses in English. So we started with master's level. That's a bit more simple, a bit more straightforward. But then, of course, the idea was to go into undergraduate, and we started with a business degree, our sports science degree as well, which is obviously I mentioned how big sports is here. We're going to have over 60 athletes going to Tokyo now, Mark, and we're
Right.
hoping to have a bigger hall than we did in Rio. But anyway, and then dentistry came along and health sciences, so pharmacy and psychology. So really, absolutely, the university has prided itself, on having boots on the ground, shall we say. I have my colleague in Southeast Asia, in New Delhi. I have 2 colleagues in Beijing. There's an office in Singapore. So they're all working very well and very hard and locally to interact with people who are interested in studying here. So, and the idea is that a number of them will come here, of course. So that's always going to be very good, interesting balances.
Right. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think I heard you say there, Paul, that Murcia is actually full now for dentistry for 2021. And we are talking about a handful of places in Cartagena as the only ones remaining right now.
Yes, yes, but there's no difference in quality, but
Sure.
once you're in one, you're in the other. So it's just the way it is. People seem to just drift towards the bigger campus, shall we say, the primary campus, the first campus, and then Cartagena. But Cartagena is a wonderful, wonderful location as well. It's on the coast. It's a big military port and a big port, so it's very interesting. A lot of activity, a lot of history. It has a lot of fortifications on the sides, on each side with the cannons. I was actually over Easter looking at big Vickers cannons from the 30s, huge, big 30-meter cannons built by the Vickers there in Birmingham to protect the sea approaches. So It's a very interesting backdrop. It's a bit cooler because it's by the coast, and we have a former military base there. So it's more spread out. The facilities again are state of the art. They're even newer than here because that campus started about 15 years ago, and so it's gone from strength to strength. Cartagena, and with our first international class last year in English in with dentistry. So they were the pioneers, but of course, there were other internationals in physio and courses like that. Italians again, and
Right.
French, and
But
and but
okay.
yes,
But coming on now to, obviously for these remaining places, entry requirements as they are. I mean, what do you look for in a dental student at UCAM? What would you say is the best? Hello?
obviously you have to. Oh no, I'm here. Yeah, just having a little bit of a water break. Now,
Right.
obviously, dentistry, you don't just think about at the last minute, or you shouldn't, because it's really something you should have thought about for quite a while when you choose your final subjects. Because as you said, Mark, you've got to have chemistry and biology. We can't have people asking what N is or C is. They really need to have a fairly good basis of sciences because they're going to really accelerate very quickly, and you just can't start trying to obtain the basics and the foundations of the sciences and expect to make that leap. So you really need to have at least chemistry or biology, and preferably both. Obviously, the third one's a bit up for grabs. I think math is a good one, but there is kind of plenty of numerical elements in chemistry, for example. So you should be au fait with numbers. You'll have to be au fait with numbers anyway. So someone who's doing this is already thinking of a scientific kind of endeavor, from 16 on. And so a lot of people, for their own reasons, have interacted with the dental world. They've had treatments, or they've seen family have treatments, or they have family members in the profession. So that's one way where people get very interested. Oh, the mouth is also a very interesting, part of the body. The biggest entrance, shall we say? There's a lot of pathologies that happen and start there. So there's a lot more to the mouth than just teeth. Okay, and the area around here, because you're obviously talking about nasal passages and everything. So there's a lot going on as well. So and so people come in with very interesting ideas and profiles, and so a lot of them would have already maybe popped along to their local clinic or done some job shadowing maybe in hospitals. The UK is very good at that. It seems to, send people along to the environments where they might end up later, in hospitals and dental clinics. And I really like that. And it's very good for us to see, that a person has thought about this seriously, because we want you to start the course, but we really, really want you to finish the course more so for you than for us. Okay, people can make mistakes, and it's very important to correct those. But generally, the idea is that we want a person who really wants to do this course and finish it. So you can see that in the preparation that a person makes before. Now you're talking about the requirements. So it will be a serious approach. Obviously, language isn't an issue here, really. They're all native speakers, or should be. So that's not such an issue as it is for in other areas of my colleagues. So and then again, to be aware of what's going on. So you'll have to learn Spanish to be aware of that, to be up for the game, and that shouldn't be, as I said, any great a cause for concern for someone who is always obviously quite clever as it is, and knows that they will have to do this, so that internalizes it, and it'll come along. So that's how we look at it. We take a holistic approach. So we generally do background checks on the marks and the predicted marks. We obviously predicted marks. We hope and expect you to get close to them, and that's generally how it goes. So anyway, but they are predicted grades. But remember that the place was based on the predicted grades. So we do an interview with me. Okay, you pass your documentation to me, and then we have an interview. We also have an international surcharge, which is maybe the first kind of filter. It's 120 euros, and with that we do our background checking with you, make sure you have access to the university course, and it's seamless and fairly straightforward, and also to get the predicted kind of grade point average. So that's what we do, and at the beginning with the 120 euro international charge. And then after the interview and after you've registered in our IT system, I pass it all to admissions, and they will make sure that everything it adds up and pass it. They will pass it then to the dental department, and the dental department will review everything. Generally, what we're doing now is videoing, the students. So that's it's very important to
So
that the
the interview is recorded then, is that what you're saying?
yes, it is.
I see.
Okay, okay.
Okay, but then once an offer is made, it is unconditional in that sense. I mean, obviously, you've mentioned that you want people to hit their predicted grades. You're going to know how unreliable those can be. Hopefully, you also are aware that they are pretty much invented this year in both the UK and Ireland as well. Does that cause you any major problems, or are you just prepared to, you know, accept the reality of that situation?
No, obviously, as I mentioned, the predicted grades, I mean, they're really thinking about you, and they feel that you're able to do these. We realize people have a bad day, but you shouldn't have three bad days, so we can take it a certain amount on the chin, but you have to. It's a very academic course, and you'll be expected to show your chops academically, and if you can't do them at that level, how are you going to do it at the next level? Really, how can you justify that? So generally, we haven't come across that situation really. So, but so generally people are coming in with their predicted fairly close, and it's good because they have to realize that it's a very, very tough course as well. Sometimes it's you beware of what you wish for, you might get it. So that's why we like to see predicted grades, and we really we're sticklers to make sure that at least the predicted grades seem to be up to the grade. And so you're going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting at the beginning academically, and we want to have seen that you are academically already up for the job, and for your own good as well, as much for ours.
I would say that's largely part of what I do as well. You know, by the time I've got a candidate that I think is suitable for UCAM, I will probably already have pre-screened you a little bit to make sure you're in the kind of parameters they're looking for. There's no point going through with this at a significantly lower level of achievement. Let's put it that way. But what I'd like to do now, Paul, is just come on to some of the Q&A. While we've been talking, people have been putting questions in there. Please do add in more if there's anything you'd like to address. But I'm going to just quickly start from the top, which you might not be able to see. And Paul, how many places have been filled for the dentistry course 2021 out of the 40 places offered? We have already answered that one for Murcia and also for Cartagena. It's getting full, right? Would that be the best way to answer that? Oh, he's gone.
Obviously, that's confidential information, And as I said, we're also with my colleagues, so they have places, and if they're filled or not, it's not really relevant to me. They're not gonna give them to me. So basically, what I have is we're quite okay for Cartagena. We're just really starting there. So we'd have maybe you could double figures. We could probably get to double figures, but of course, I have people already enrolling now. So and if they could be jumping in. We're first come, first served, and so that's important to know. But definitely, it's not like we're not fighting over a couple of places here. So
Well,
we're talking about at least half a dozen.
I would say that, whichever way you look at it, and I mean, obviously, you would expect me to say something like this, don't delay, get on with it. The reality of the situation is, as far as UK students going to Spain to study dentistry, we are so far ahead of where we were last year that you're literally down to the last handful or so of places. And I think that the Cartagena option is, at this stage in the game, it's not going to be there for long, let's put it that way.
No, no,
The
true,
next
true.
question.
And okay, yeah.
The next question is about Spanish lessons. You did mention a little bit about this before, Paul, with regards to, like, I suppose, medical terminology and stuff. But are there Spanish classes also to help people?
You're given a primer course, okay, to start you off, but then it's really up to yourself. We have a language school, and they have classes that are online, and I really would encourage people to systemize their Spanish, not just to expect to absorb it in the streets and in the restaurants and the cafes and the bus stops and that sort of thing. Obviously, a lot of that will happen, but having a kind of academic course, even at any level, to give you some good grammar, and once you get a few verbs together, you can really start seeing how sentences are put together. How you'll see them in advertisements, you'll see them in the paper, So it's you're given a primer course, but then from then on, it's really up to you by osmosis, because really you can't. We found that if we provided courses, people got very we had like the class was full on the first day, and it was half full on the second day, and there was nobody hardly in the third day. So free things don't really work, we found. So especially with languages. So it's up to you, this impulse. You know what you have to do, and you have to pass 2 exams with, as I said, Spanish dentistry exams. So that's the jargon, the nomenclature of the mouth, the area, the instruments as well, and just general medical information and how to interact with a patient, some fairly simple stuff. So, but it's important. You have to do that to get to the practical parts in third year. But by 3 years, 2.5 years here. Oh my goodness, we have a
We
special
have
guest. I
Abigail
think
joining
I'll
us.
I'll I'll cede my place.
All right, no worries. Well,
Hi
Abigail,
guys.
hi there. We're just starting to talk a little bit about, sort of answering student questions. So brilliant that you've able to turn
Yeah.
up. We're just talking about the Spanish language actually at the moment, and this might be a good one to bring you in on, because although, yeah, your class is in English and you're speaking English with people from all around the world, you are kind of in a Spanish-speaking country. You need Spanish, really, yeah? When you go out into the street, not everybody's going to speak English to you in Cartagena. Is that the way it is, would you say? Or can you survive?
That is the way. I definitely think I have picked up the absolute bare minimum Spanish. My Spanish is so bad. Es muy mal. I'm hoping that will improve. Like, it's actually disgustingly bad.
No seas tan modesta. No seas tan modesta, Abigail. I'm sure it's better than you think.
No, it's not.
Well, you've still got a little bit of time to get up to the required standard before they let you loose on patients or anything like that, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. You spend so much time like focusing on the educational academic aspect of things that takes a back seat. And as long as I can go to the shop and understand what someone's saying to me, and it's okay. I joined kickboxing recently and the instructor only speaks Spanish. So that's a very interesting interaction I do 3 times a week.
We have heard that before. Sport is a great way to do this. If you join a basketball team and everybody's swearing at you in Spanish, you very quickly have to learn it. Otherwise, everything's going wrong. So, sport is a great leveler. And while we're on, sorry, Abigail, you've come in while there are some questions on the screen from students already. I do want to come back and quiz you a little bit on your own experience in a moment. But Paul, this is going to be a good one for you. We're being asked, are there sport facilities for all students to use, like a gym, sports track, sports hall, huge part, being a huge part of life in the UK and Ireland? Is it different in Spain? I'm going to say it is different in Spain, but Murcia is probably an exception to that difference. Yeah.
Well, it's very interesting what Abigail has just said about the kickboxing, and that's great. And it's more or less, the facilities and the clubs are there. They're not so much associated with the university. We have sports facilities because we have sports science on the campus. So there is a gym, for example, but it's a private gym, so it does cost a bit, but not much. But the idea is that just definitely you have to the mind, the body, the spirit. You have to keep the body moving to have an absorbent mind, and so this is very important as well. So, but it's up to the people, to do that. I mean, we have our athletics club is actually in Cartagena, and they're really, really good. They'd like to take people on and improve them. So if anyone has track and field, that's a good place for them to be as well, because we don't have that in the Murcia campus. We do in the Cartagena campus. So obviously there's beaches nearby, there's water sports, it's obviously a very active lifestyle. So, but it's up to the person. So generally that would be off on your own bat, like Abigail has found her milieu, her interest, and has gone for it and gone into an atmosphere which is totally Spanish, and that is really good. I mean, if you can share with people who don't speak English, in accommodation, for example, it's a great way to bring it on.
Right. Okay, wonderful. But I do get the sense that sport is very, very important to the university. Isn't it true still that as part of your sort of student package, you get access to basketball games and football matches and stuff like that?
We did, but then COVID meant there was no audiences, so it was kind of terrible, and we have a very good football team and basketball team, but Cartagena is the other campus, so they're a bit further away from the games. So
Right.
I think the boys in my class went to a football game a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we've started giving out the tickets again because we can have a few people in the stadium, but you know,
Right.
and we can't do it with the basketball yet because that's a more reduced space and more enclosed. But the football stadium, yeah, they've actually been raffling a few tickets and handing out a few tickets, which is great, and it's a great endeavor. You know, it's a good league, it's a good level, and it's a good fun. It's in the center. You know, it's like bringing football back to the center of the city. So yeah.
Wonderful. I'm just going to move on to a couple of questions now, which are specifically more about the interview process. Well, the first one isn't, but it's about whether you give any weight to the UK CAT, the UCAT, or the BMAT, I'm guessing. I am not aware of any universities, dental schools in Europe that specifically look at the UCAT at all. I guess it might just form part of your holistic picture, Paul, but it's not, it's just data, isn't it? It's neither a need it or a don't need it, I think.
So these are the points on the UCAS system, isn't that right? The minimum is 48, which is obviously very far from where we want to be. But no, no. Okay,
No,
sorry.
no, no. You're talking about, I'm talking about the UK CAT, which is a clinical aptitude test that you have to do in addition to your A levels to get into med school and dental school. Look, the experience I have is that very, very few international dental schools know what this is or even really care. But, you know, I will look at it and I will be able to evaluate whether that's good or not. The next question, though, is one for both of you. From both sides, I suppose. And Abigail, this is going to take you back a little bit in your memory. Well, what kind of questions were you asked in the interview? I mean, firstly, was it Paul who interviewed you?
It was. It was.
Have you forgiven me?
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember what specifically the questions were. I just remember thinking that I didn't need to be as anxious as I was.
Right. So it wasn't as big a deal as you kind of built it up perhaps before you did it.
Yeah. I mean, I've never had an interview for a UK dental school. So that was my only reference point, is knowing or not having like a direct idea of what they ask, but having, you know, read up on the things that they ask. But I don't think it was as daunting, and it felt like a lot more personable.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, I
thank
get
you.
the impression.
But put that down to me. I do feel that it's a two-way street. You know, I mean, it's a big, huge step people are thinking about. So I really want to, you know, place UCAM, you know, in firmly in what it does and how it operates, but also very interested in the motivation of the person. So this is why the motivation letters plays an important part. And so I touch upon that. You know, why dentistry? You know, and so it's very, very important to get a handle on the person's vocation and passion for dentistry. So that's really what it's about. And then of course I fill in a bit about the lifestyle here. It's very, you know, very interesting and very important for them to know, you know, what goes on, how the lifestyle is, and to fill in those blanks as well, and to make it to try and reassure them that the transition will be fairly smooth, you know, but it is a big step. So that's why I always feel it's a two-way communication. And we like to have interviews, we like to have a wet process, because we feel that you should know the university, someone in the university, you should know the internationalized team that is there and available for you. And again, there's nothing like a few spoken words, you know. Normally my chat, shall we say, my interviews run to about an hour, and we don't even realize it just flies by. And so we cover a lot of ground, and I think it's wonderful that it can be an hour, and you're like you're finishing up. And so we like to do that. We like to get meet and greet.
So it's more of a matching process as much as anything else, making
Yes,
sure
yes, yes.
you know, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure we're the place for you? And if so, hey, welcome. It seems to be the overall the sensation you get from that. Now, I appreciate, because we are answering questions that are coming in from you, the audience. Please do send in more. These are going to jump around a lot by topic, I'm afraid. The next one is one that, Abigail, I really do want to get your input on. How hard is it to find private accommodation near the campus? You specifically with Cartagena, and I guess, Paul, you can come in with the Murcia perspective as well. Was that a headache for you?
It wasn't a headache. I had spoken to one of my friend's brother's friends, used to study in Spain, and he told me about Idealista. So because I've been to uni before, I didn't want to go through university accommodation route, just because I just wanted to do it myself. So I looked for it myself, and I didn't find that difficult. I've since moved, but the place that I originally stayed in was literally 10 minutes, if not less, from the campus. I'm now in town, which is a bit further away, but it's obviously still accessible. And I honestly didn't have any issues. If I can do it, anyone can do it. Google Maps is your friend. Yeah.
Okay. Would you be able to say roughly what a sensible budget for accommodation would be in terms of the rent you'd be paying for sharing a room in Cartagena?
So in the first place I went to, it was there were 4 of us. It was 3 French boys that do physio, and my room was the biggest, and it had ensuite. There was a fridge inside the room, which I loved, and you had like your own cupboard in the kitchen. And obviously the kitchen and living room were communal spaces, and I was paying $350 including bills, which was really good.
Right, yeah, pretty good.
Now I'm paying $300 excluding bills, which I'm not a fan of, just because it can vary so much. I think if I do move again, obviously, anytime you're new somewhere, you are kind of unsure about bartering and negotiation. And I think that I would now be a lot more comfortable with saying, excuse me, I've been here for a year, don't try it.
I mean, look, that's classic, isn't it? You know, landlords will see an international student coming a mile off. And I think, Paul, you have mentioned to me in one of our more recent conversations that UCAM is kind of stepping up and helping a bit more with the accommodation for the international students.
Well, we actually institutionalized, professionalized housing service. It was just around the time of Abigail, but Abigail actually got in there and just went for it. And I really like to see that. You know, it's perfectly feasible. And I recommend that people try themselves. And then if they can't, you know, if it doesn't work out, try us, because we have a cost. Our team has a cost. But the thing about our team is that you can trust them. It's us. So, you know, they're really going to deliver what they say they're going to deliver. Whereas in Idealista or some of the web pages, the listings, you don't really know till you're there on site. You don't really know the person. But we've checked out all our accommodation. And so the housing service are very good at what they do, and they really get you sorted, especially if you're like bespoke, you know, maybe coming with a partner or a child or things like this, you know. So they can help you a bit more there, or your certain budgets or certain parts of the city. They can really you know, advise you very well. And so we found that was a very good service to have for Asians, for example, who would find it very much harder to find accommodation being outside the country, and what they want to have it when they arrive. And there's nothing like having your own place to hang your hat as soon as you get there, you know, and close that door and open the suitcase and not have to be trudging around for the first 4 or 5 days with the, you know, the stress of trying to figure out a city, even with your friend Google Maps. But you know, but it can be done, and look, people did it for years. But now there's housing services, and so it gives you a certain kind of relief, you know, or consolation that there's always the backup, so that the 7th Cavalry can be there.
But related to that, perhaps going off into all sorts of other areas that students also need, what support is offered to help students settle in? I mean, Abigail, did you have much in the way of orientation? Were there like, so, I mean, okay, you've arrived in COVID, so please, we understand that it maybe wasn't normal, but to what extent did UCAM help you, you know, settle into your classes, settle into your social life, and, you know, was there any support in that kind of way?
I think that is honestly where I feel things for me fell short, and I've since voiced my concerns about that because I think it was really subpar. I think that moving in a pandemic to a new country, away from home, I expected just a lot more support and someone to check in and say, hey, how are you doing? I know this is a difficult time. Also, the intensity of the course, like it's an intense course and there is so much content. You know, I have a classmate who didn't know that there was like a nurse on campus until she just kind of had a bit of a breakdown about exams. And I think that is like an area for improvement for sure. We didn't get assigned personal tutors until way into the course, and I just think that for me that was a moment that I didn't like that, and it was very concerning. I think that I'm someone who kind of brushes things off and gets on with it. But when I have an opportunity and the conversation is open for me to kind of voice my concerns about it, I will. And I did. And I think that some tutors have definitely been a lot more responsive to that, for sure.
So you do feel that they are listening to you?
Yeah, I think that sometimes you'll be listened to, not all the time you'll be listened to. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's part of what we were saying with Paul there, introducing more services, more help for students. And yeah, as you point out, Abigail, everybody knows this was a weird year with lots of people having all sorts of different priorities. And you being the first people arriving first international students arriving in Cartagena, things can be bumpy, but you're a pioneer. So I'd be hopeful that next year's wouldn't have half of those issues and you would be able to, potentially advise people as and when if things like that do crop up. But it's good to know that at least they are responsive. And again, absolutely say whatever you need to. This is not, this is good feedback for all of us.
Certainly is, and I salute you, Abigail, and I salute all of you. Marvelous people in a very strange year. Maybe perhaps we had to cut down the interactions, so it was harder to just do that sort of personalized service. We did have the girl on campus, Pilar, who was the international officer. So perhaps she needs to be more aware of more roles, and more, instead of being just maybe active, and being proactive instead of reactive, and pointing out the services that the university has. And I think we have looked at a bit at student care, and that's come along a bit this year. And so even on the web page, which I won't share my screen now, but I could have gone to the web page, and we've opened up another section there with the student care and also the student life, and a lot more about what we have, like the symphony orchestra, and just a lot more things like that. I know. I think there's a certain stage where you put the course together first, then you put the class together first, and then you maybe that's like everything goes from there and it radiates out, and then it gets better and better as you get more and more kind of firmly based. So perhaps it's a bit of teething pains, and I do apologize. I'm taking note as well. I mean, the tutors, it's very important. I mean, I was always surprised that I didn't really hear much from you guys at all myself. I mean, I always feel that I'm a point of contact for you in any way I can, and so and to follow you through your history and your time here, to be a reference point as well. But I do know it is important to make sure that, for example, tutors are dealing with academic issues, and then also the services on campus, that you're aware of them. So maybe we need to do a bit more orientation, and just to point out what we have. So I think also people.
Sure. The first day we started class, and it was like, hey, I'm your teacher, lesson 1. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, in at the deep end, start
Yeah.
carry on. But, look, I mean, there's something, I think, to be fair, Abigail, there's a little bit of just like cultural adaptation that comes here. We send students to all sorts of different countries, and yeah, it's going to feel weird. And I do have to say that British universities wrap you in cotton wool to the foreign universities just don't. And I actually, personally, I think that's a good thing. But it does take a certain kind of person to adapt to it, or you just need to realize this is the pace, this is the way things are going to be. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not singling me out for special treatment. It's just the way it is. You either adapt.
It's definitely an adjustment period for sure. I spent the first 3 months very frustrated just because of things that I wasn't used to. And I've since now either accepted things. If I think that actually, no, I'm not going to accept this and you need to change, I've said it. And also I'm just a lot more used to things now. So it's not as annoying.
Yeah. How are you getting on with Spanish life, by the way? The idea that you're going to have your dinner at like 11 o'clock in the evening and stuff like that. And your timetable is presumably very different from what you were used to when living in the UK.
I don't do that just because
Okay, I think, Abigail, we might have lost you a bit there. Are you there?
My connection is sorry, my connection was a bit weak. I'm here.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, look, I mean, so you haven't.
Asking me about?
Yeah, I was asking you about whether you've adapted to it. It sounds like with compromises, maybe.
Yeah, I have. I found siestas really annoying when I got here because you know, I'm from London, so it's like go go go. Why do you need a break in the day? This is so stupid. But I'm used to it now, and you know, I've adapted.
Okay, and you're enjoying it, generally speaking? You like Spain?
I am. I feel like I'm still. I think it's still a bit of an alien concept to me. But I don't have those moments anymore where I'm like, oh my gosh, I live in Spain.
Right. I mean, you have, again, you have moved in the middle of a pandemic. Things are naturally strange, let's put it that way.
Can I ask you, Abigail, can I ask you how the mates in the class, for example, you know, I mean, they all went through the same kind of process. How did you get on? Did you kind of knit together really well, you know, kind of, you know, facing the tasks, the study tasks, and then the lifestyle tasks, and how did you get on there? Is that your main focal social point, for example, social emphasis? Is your classmates or?
I mean, we had to be split up just because of COVID and to like make sure that in class we maintained social distancing. So I think because of that, sometimes the other group you think, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you for a long time. Like I don't really know you that well. Whereas the people in your class you do know very well. I'm really lucky that the people that I live with a British girl and a German guy, and I think we have a really good dynamic, and we're in the same class, so we're going through the same things at the same time, and that really does help. Because you know, if you're having a bit of a bad day, they understand why, and it's comforting to have someone kind of know what you're going through.
Right. On that, just around sort of social life and all the rest of it, we've spoken a little bit about sporting societies. You've obviously mentioned your own sporting activities. What else is there? Is there a dental society for students? Is there other kind of societies? I guess you're the first year there, the first international students in Cartagena. So if there is, you probably have to make it yourself, yeah? Or...
Probably. I don't know of any dental society as such. There's no like, obviously, I'm on a different campus. Like, there's no real cohesion between the two. I've gone to Murcia since and like met with a few of the other people from first year dentistry, but there's not really a community in a sense with dental students. It's just like who you know, who you like, and then you go out with them. Like there's nothing official.
Maybe that's a thing that needs to come. Somebody needs to set that up, you know, a UCAM overarching dental society.
Yeah.
Guys, you know, I think it's like it's another one of those cultural differences. They don't do societies on campus. You know, there's you know, it really. Maybe perhaps because it's a private school, so and it's also a faith-based school, even though you don't have to profess any faith. But the idea is that you know, the learning is sacrosanct. You're there on campus for a very important reason, and you're paying a lot of money for it. So maybe we're too focused on that, putting it on a pedestal. You know, the learning is everything, but that is a bit about how it goes, and it's for the Spanish as well. So they don't have too much fun on campus. You know, we do have our Freshers Week, and we do have some activities, and you know, there are things going on, like the patron of the faculty. Well, you'll have a big paella in the car park, but that was before. But there's generally not a lot of that going on. We did flash mob when it was you know, everyone was doing it. This sort of thing. We do things, but generally on campus it's a bit of a, you know, a drier experience. You know, you're here to go to the library, go to your class, maybe chill out a bit with your friends, and then, you know, off you go. You know, so I think it's maybe, again, as you say, Mark, you know, that there's no big student union, for example. There's no student union. There's no students club. You know, it's a bit different. So from what goes on, and they don't have the societies. So
And again, this is not a Spanish thing. This is actually more of a European thing. It's the same in the Netherlands. It's the same in Italy. Most other places don't have that kind of, I don't know, say social element to their societies. But again, it sounds like you're not lonely. You know, you're having a good life over there. It's just a little bit different from what you'd have in the UK.
Yeah.
Now, the next couple of questions I want to address are both sort of financial ones. So I'm going to go to Paul first on these. Can the fees vary from year to year, or are they fixed at the rate you pay on the year you come in? And also, are there scholarships for international students?
okay, it will vary a bit. It'll be, you know, it creeps up every year or two, maybe by 1 or 2%, So it could maybe move by €1,000 from first year to the last year. So that, I suppose, that is to be expected. There is like the rate of inflation, shall we say, so built in. It doesn't stick. Maybe it's another thing that happens, but in private schools, just a bit of inflation. So that'll be that. Okay. Unfortunately, scholarships, they really take the view that there's none from England, there's none from the state, and there's none really from us, because we're a private school and it's a very sought after course. So there's no reason to really to help out. I mean, you really need to be able to afford this course. It's quite an expensive course as well. So it's very important to have the finances thought out. And to know that from day one, that generally it's self-financing, or you can finance from your own country, or if you have someone to be a guarantor in Spain, you could get some funding here. But most people don't have guarantors. But there are more and more students coming from the coastal area, the expats and things like that. So, but generally, you have to be aware of the financial outlay. Have it planned. And just know what it is. It's still more reasonable than other schools in Spain even, and in many other places. So just generally, it is what it is. And so unfortunately, there is no major assistance there at all.
I would say I do think that UCAM is again, I hesitate to use the word cheapest, because people think that means things that it doesn't necessarily mean in this context, but it's certainly one of the more cost-effective ways of you qualifying as a dentist in Spain. I would say, just as a general rule, we have found that the Catholic institutions teaching dentistry in English put their prices up far less than the more venture capital owned ones. Let's put it that way.
Great to hear that. Great to hear good things.
Less likely to see a massive hike, but it is the case that, yeah, if fees go up from year to year, you will have to pay the difference. They are not fixed at the day you go in for the 5 years you are there.
But it won't be excessive. It won't be excessive. It went up €200, I think. Over 14,000. So it wasn't a big change.
Right. So you're
Less
at
than 2%.
14,100 now, I think, isn't it? Or am I wrong there?
14,400. So that was €300 this year. So
Wow.
it does creep up. It started off as 13,900. Yeah, anyway, so
Okay.
yeah.
Minor increases. But Abigail, would you say the cost of living is, I mean, yeah, if you're used to London, it's got to be cheap, right?
Yeah, it's cheaper, especially obviously if you do a conversion. The pounds usually always gonna get you more. Yeah, I think it's also about you as an individual. You can live an expensive life or you can budget. It's really down to you and finances you have access to, and budgeting and stuff, really.
Right, but you're coping with your budget. You're not feeling like massive financial.
No. What I didn't budget for is that I feel like in the UK, when I go out with my friends, if I wanted to like pop to Tesco's or Lidl or get some few things and then like go and sit down in a park, that's the thing. But I feel like here it's like a bar, a tapas bar. And yes, you can find some that have really good deals and it's super cheap and would be the equivalent of just, getting some bits from Tesco and sitting in the park. But that's maybe just like a social thing that I'm not used to. But it's not super expensive to be here. And you don't have to do that every day.
Right. Good. Oh yeah, you're studying, I guess, most of the time.
Exactly. There's no time.
So between kickboxing and dentistry, that's your life, yeah? Good.
Yeah, I'm tired,
Right. Okay. And I mean, obviously, as things open up post-COVID, I hope you're going to have more. Well, I hope you have more things to spend your money on, to be honest, So, but
yeah.
We'll see. Maybe that this year, that's more of an issue. Okay. The next question I want to add, hang on a minute. Okay, I'm going to start with this. This is a very specific question, so apologies to everybody else, because this will only apply to literally one person. If someone has 500 CA in Ireland, while this is a good leaving cert, you can get dentistry. However, to have 600, you might stand a chance of getting in. And you're basically asking, can I use a Spanish dental school as insurance till I wait and see what happens in Ireland? And if I get a place in Ireland, can I have my money back? I actually spend the vast majority of my life telling people, no, do not do this. Primarily, and again, Paul can come in on this from the UCAM perspective, no other dental school I know will give you any money back. And in actual fact, they get very annoyed, almost insulted, when people sign up to take a place and then don't turn up, primarily because you will have taken inevitably a space away from somebody else who we had to tell no because you were sitting on a place that you later turned out you didn't need. Now, I fully understand the reasoning why you would do that. I fully understand the motivation behind it. I can completely sympathize. What I can't do is help. Um, if you find out in August or whatever that you then desperately need a place, in previous years we have managed it occasionally with some dental schools, but it is getting harder and harder. Anything you'd like to say on that, Paul? From particularly you?
Absolutely, absolutely. No, it's the bugbear of all the admissions processes and the management, shall we say, of these of the numbers. You know, they're always trying to walk a balance. You know, they're trying maybe a couple more places because you know people will by attrition, you know, just fall away. But anyway, it's a very fine line, and you want to have your class full for many reasons for to the school. But so we've actually changed the situation this year, and we now ask for people to have their English language certificates before they get an offer place, even. So, but that doesn't really count for UK students, but generally it would for others. So that would be one issue, and they now are asking for half fees. To get your place, okay, that's the reservation fee. Now there's still some refund in that, you know, generally, but you have to make sure it's with more than 28 days before the course starts. So if you're within the 28 days, it all disappears. So that's as you can say, and that wasn't that way before, Mark. So you can see that they're already tightening. So they're really saying to you, you know, don't come here unless you're really fairly certain. Please don't do that. You know, take your chances and then leave us till you know maybe we'll have a place.
Yeah, this
You
is
know, so
it just has to be that way. And primarily from my perspective, the reason why I'm, well, quite as vociferous about this, and it might surprise you to hear me be that way, is literally because if you say, yes, I want a seat, I inevitably have to say to somebody else, sorry, you can't have it. And if it turns out that they could have had it, but you were hanging on to it, yeah, it's not a good situation for anybody to be in. But I do appreciate that you kind of, in your situation, you know, yes, you are luckier if you have 500 points and you do 600 when it comes to applying to Spain. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Sorry, there isn't a good, nice answer to that, I'm afraid. Blah, blah, blah. The next question, also on money here, I'll just come to this one. Is the pre-inscription fee refundable if you are not offered a place? Presumably you're talking about the 120 euros here.
yeah, no, that disappears forever. That's kind of just one off. But if you're not offered a place, we won't you won't have paid anything else, you know. So that's okay. So yeah. No, the 120 is just it's a standard where we use it to fund activities. We do study reports on you, so it's been spent, you know. So, but it's a fairly minor amount, you know, to get yourself teed up for a place, you know, and then this is that's the whole idea is to get you in place for an offer. And then once you have an offer, okay, you can sit on it, you can take it, you can run with it, but that's what it costs to get that far.
I think that's fair enough. And to be honest, you know, we would never put forward a candidate who didn't stand a chance. So you'd never be asked to pay that money if we thought this is just, you know, not going to work out. But yeah, that's the way it is. Sorry, Sophie's come back and said there's a 350 euro fee as well, Paul?
No, that's a pre-inscription. That's a secretarial charge. You don't pay it. You actually register, and it will pop up, but don't pay it. It's separate. We try and keep the internationals in a different kind of stream. So you pay the 120. We'll do everything. You do register. Just ignore it. You just say bank, and it won't make you pay anything, and then it'll be added in later to the offer. So the offer will have half fees and will have that pre-inscription charge. So that's a standard one-off secretarial charge at the beginning, and there's a couple more as well, unfortunately, but you know, a few startup costs, shall we say. There's a ministry file fee of 200 as well. There's student insurance, which is every year, which is 64, but that's very good for a health science course, you know, if there's any accidents on campus or anything like that, or off campus, because you'll be off campus as well, going to the clinic. So student insurance is it's a legal obligation of universities in Spain to have that. There's also some things we don't want to really talk about, but life insurance as well. And you know, if anything really odd happens, you know, it is an insurance policies as well. So we don't want to even think about those options. But anyway, our clauses. But anyway, they're there as well. So that's why even a student who does an online course has to have it. You know. But anyway, so Yes, so that's the question there. So the 350 is it will pop up, but that's what the Spanish will do when they do it. They'll pay it. They'll have their system. And then you know that. So the system is really thinking about national students, Spanish national students. It's designed for them. So we work our way around it by doing what we do, which is just a different system. You'll work with me with that, and I'll make sure you don't do anything you don't have to do.
So basically, it's going to cost you €120 to get a place. And then if you
Yes, to enter, because we found that's it's a good filter, you know, and it seems to be fairly reasonable anyway. And you did mention something there back there, Mark, about special exams in the UK. Obviously, fine, it's fantastic, like the SATs as well. But what Spain does and what we've done as a private university is try and simplify it and keep it. It's already pretty complicated at times, so we don't want to put extra things in the way. We're going to judge you on your high schooling, which is what the Spanish state will be able to equivalent to their own state exams. So that's why homologation for certain schoolings, which may be UK schoolings next year, we'll have to see what they decide. But at the moment, it's UK, it's EU schooling, or with the associate, like Iceland as well does the same system. Even China, there's a special relationship with China to do the UK or the EU kind of process, which is a credential, and it's not too bad. But anyway, so we don't want to make it too complicated. You have the access for Spain, so why are we going to put more there? That's why that's why the interview is there. That's why we're going to have a video now. We're going to video the motivation, and the interviews. We're going to so we do a lot more as well already. So as I said, the process that you come with me. So it's a bit more than just your results. So, but we don't want to put more barriers in the way. We want to make it as feasible and as smooth as possible.
And you do have to do that to compare students across borders anyway, otherwise it gets horrendously complicated. Now just moving on to a couple of questions about Murcia specifically, but then I do want to spin it around to talk about Cartagena as well. First one is about what is the total student population of Murcia? Are you talking just UCAM or the whole city? The whole city's got several universities, hasn't it? It's quite a studenty place.
It's a bit of a Heidelberg, the Germans tell me, but there's a public school, but that's quite big. So, there's a lovely university square, a corner, quarter in the city, and so a lot of people hang around there. But their main campus is off. It's actually quite close to us because the tram goes to them, and we stop, and you have to get a connection to us. So and so we're quite close to their main campus as well. So it's a bit of a young student population in Murcia. Now it's about 200,000 people in the center. So, and it's nuclear, because it wasn't a coastal city, so it's round. And so that makes it, you could walk from one end to the other fairly simply, in about 45 minutes, and because it's more built up. So it's perfectly sized, I think. It's an intimate size for. It's not too overwhelming. I think it's a city which has everything it needs to have without being too small. So good environment to study in.
Student feel to it, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, okay. All right, and where do most of the, and again, this question has been asked specifically about Murcia, but I do want to ask about Cartagena as well. Where do the classes take place? I mean, in UCAM, in Murcia, is it on campus or is it downtown? I'm guessing the clinics are only really a major factor or a major destination from the third year onwards, a little bit perhaps in the first 2 years.
You're correct, and but in the first 2 years, it's basically all the university. That's why they don't even have the clinic in Cartagena, so that's why they haven't anywhere to go. So, and the students here in Murcia did not go to the clinic till third year. So that's when it starts to come into play, and that's here you're in the classrooms, you're in the labs, you're doing your practical, very practical and hands-on. The mannequins are here as well in the labs. We have all those facilities and for anatomy and everything you need for that hands-on science. But it's here on the campus to begin with, and it will be in Cartagena. It is in Cartagena, and then toward third year onwards, it should get more and more. It swings like a pendulum. It starts with the theory, the class, the labs, and then becomes into the clinics and the practical parts.
Right. But the Cartagena campus, how centrally located is that in the town itself?
Well, we can ask Abigail about that. It's not exactly central. It's often a bus trip, isn't it? It's about how many kilometers outside?
Yeah, it's a bus. 100 kilometers.
How many notes? How many pages of notes do you get through on the bus?
How many songs do I listen to? I've walked before, and I would say it's as a walk, it's 45 minutes to an hour. Obviously, the bus is significantly quicker. I like walking, so like if and when I decide to do that, it's never an issue for me. Obviously, I usually take bus. I have a bike which I ride as well. I'm slow, so it takes me half an hour. My housemate is super quick, so it literally takes him 15 minutes. There's a hill that you have to get up with the bike, which is not fun, but you know, exercise.
Just need a bit of training, you'll be fine. Don't skip the leg though. Just don't do too much kickboxing. You know, you'll be in the wrong shape for it. But
Yeah, exactly. You
get
never
out
have
on the bike, you'll be fine.
to
But is it safe to cycle around? Would you say?
I would say so. There's definitely some bicycle lanes. Obviously, as a cyclist, you have to be looking at drivers because they're stupid, and they're not really, you know, cyclists. People in cars hate people on bikes, and so you have to make sure that you're aware of that. So yeah, but I've been fine.
Okay, good stuff. Now I'm aware that we're coming up to nearly an hour and a half of this, so I do want to wrap it up quite quickly. There are 3 questions here which are more sort of related, more perhaps towards the end of dentistry rather than anything else. The first one I want to address is a question about transfers. If you have a BSc degree, can you transfer in, or can you apply for module exemptions? The first half of that I'm going to answer because I know the answer. You cannot apply for a transfer at UCAM. It just does not exist. Module exemptions, these are really, really tricky in every dental school I've worked with, primarily because if you're talking about a class of 40 people, and if everybody comes in with an exemption for this, that, and the other, the whole class never really gels. So it's important from my perspective, I would say, that you don't disrupt the overall makeup of the class too much with exemptions for particular students. Paul, do you have anything you would say to?
They want to take you from day one and train you throughout the whole time. So it's a dentistry degree, so it's going to be a bit different from what you did in any other field because it wasn't a dentistry degree. And actually, even we had a transfer student, a very rare case, but he was from a Spanish university. He had 3 years, and he only managed to convalidate a year and a half of it, and they're both Spanish dentistry degrees. And so you can imagine what a biomedical science degree is going to translate into. A very going to be very little return. But they also take the opinion that if you know this, you can do an exam in it tomorrow. You know, show me your chops. You know, why should I take it on face value? If you did it more than 3 or 4 years ago, you really know that stuff. You know, now could you actually do an exam in it tomorrow? If you want to convalidate it, you should be able to. So this is their reasoning. So and they say no, you won't be able to do that. So we want you to sit through class and you know and do it all together. The class together. So they've got away from that. They don't like doing it and they won't do it anymore. They'll get you to sign away the right. You know, they'll ask you to not do it. So they want you to start from day one like everyone else.
Right. This
I
is
do
actually
know one person in my class that did do that, and he wasn't allowed to obviously not partake in everything. It's only maybe one module, and this is the second semester. So I would say that if anyone is a student that's listening and it's something that they want to do, I would say like make sure you inquire about it from the get-go because it is difficult, and I don't think it's something that
and
is
you're talking about a student who has one module maybe recognized, who is sitting in first year classes alongside you. This is not a way of saving time, is it? You know, it's like still going to take them 5 years to graduate, isn't it?
No. And I think sometimes if you already do have a degree for the first year, obviously I can only speak on that, there are some parallels if between some of the subjects. So I think sometimes it's just kind of good to reconsolidate your knowledge, or it could help you. I don't think it's a hindrance.
Right. Okay, good. I mean, it's something that with Spanish dental schools in general, we've always had to say transfers just, or, you know, credit recognition just doesn't happen. You know, there's one exception to that this year in Madrid, but that's largely because COVID left them with a big hole in their first year intake, which will be a big hole in their second year intake if they don't fill it with something. So, you know, but that's very, very rare. And in actual fact, for the last 5 years or so, I used to do transfers all the time. We used to be able to get people in with biomed science degrees with no real problem, but it all stopped about 5 years ago and it's never going to come back, is what I'd say there. Couple of other final questions here. Do you provide postgraduate studies, residency in dentistry?
We have a big postgraduate school, but most of the courses are in Spanish. But at that stage, your Spanish will be fairly good. But there wouldn't, I wouldn't say so much of residencies, because you know, postgraduate dental courses are very long term. You're generally doing operations and procedures on people and then coming back 3 months later. You know, so they're generally stop start. So I wouldn't really say, and we haven't actually finished a full term. We haven't got graduates yet, so we'll have to see what they do. But there are definitely a very active postgraduate school, a PGO. I can send you the link, you know, and actually we saw it there in the clinic. They had their area, so the postgraduate area. So definitely there's a lot of activity there. They're very professional, the teachers involved. So they're working on their own research projects and areas as well.
But this is one of those areas that actually is a bit of a reverse of international higher education. As a rule, you tend to find the bachelor's phase might be in the local language and the master's phase is in English. Here it's kind of the opposite. The bachelor's phase is in English, and master's degrees at all Spanish dental schools that are teaching a 5-year BDS, all of their master's programs are in Spanish, to the best of my knowledge. I've not come across anything that would be suitable for somebody who didn't speak a word of Spanish to come in and do postgraduate study. But had you done your undergraduate in Spain and learnt the language, there are natural progression routes that would make perfect sense.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
Talking about progression, the very last question here: what are your prospects of working as a dentist in Spain after completing the course?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Again, we haven't actually had any graduates, but you know, the dental market, of course, you know, it's in a flux. It's in a state. A lot of people are retiring. Good opportunities. You're a trained dentist and you're ready to go. So it's more or less up to yourself to look at opportunities, probably in bigger cities, but definitely in Barcelona and Madrid there'll be opportunities. You know, even at a certain level to get professional experience, and it'd be great. Actually, I'd love to see that. But generally, most of the students are focusing going back to their own places, because, as you know, the UK has plenty of opportunities.
Absolutely. I'm guessing, Abigail, that's a description that fits you as well. You're planning on coming back to the UK afterwards?
Yeah, I am. That's the plan for now. I don't know what my decision might change in 5 years' time. I might be so in love with Spain that I'll stay.
Right. It does happen occasionally. It absolutely does. And again, you're fully qualified to work anywhere in the EU. You can go any number of places. And yeah, I don't really want to drag up Brexit again. All I will say is go to the General Dental Council website if you want guidance on whether EU qualifications will be recognised in the future. The current policy is basically wait and see. No firm decision has been taken. Nothing has changed so far. So for those students graduating this summer, next summer, they'll be fine as long as they register with the GDC before 31st of December 2022. After that, who knows what's coming next? You might have to do the overseas registration exam. You probably will have to do some kind of licensing exam. It probably won't be the ORE as it's currently configured, because if we start putting that many British candidates through the ORE, that system will collapse pretty quickly. So something's got to change, and they're just waiting and seeing. But so, you know, if you're thinking there, sitting there thinking, I must know if my degree will be recognized in the UK before I commit to going to study in Spain, fantastic. Talk to me in 18 months. I've got nothing to tell you till then.
It will, but by very different processes. I mean, no one can take away the fact that you're a dentist, you know, fully trained dentist, and you'll be able to get to work.
I would never reasonably say, put your life on hold and wait to the outcome of this. I would say, you know, look, this is the hand you've been dealt, play it. You know, that's all I can say really on that point. And I wish I never had to mention it at all, but such is life. It is making things a little bit more complicated. Paul did touch a little bit on visas and so on. We are doing a lot of research into this area. There are going to be changes, but nothing that's unmanageable, I don't think. Just don't leave this to the last minute. That's another reason why you shouldn't leave this to the last minute. That's all I would say on that. Now, Abigail, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for sharing a little bit about your experience. You mentioned already, obviously, you've got you've got British friends. I don't know if you have any Irish friends in Cartagena at the moment, do you?
No.
All right. So there's room for them.
there's 4 British people. There's 4 of us. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a good number. It's never going to grow that dramatically, but it'd be nice. I'm sure the next 4, maybe some of you have been on this call tonight. So that's wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Paul, thank you very much for your insight. I'm sure everybody is going to be a lot wiser about what UCAM actually involves by now. And that was the aim of this session. So hopefully you've learned a lot. And if there's anything else you want to know, you're welcome to get in touch with me or Paul by email, and we will be happy to fill you in.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark, for this opportunity to explain a bit about what we do. And it's great to see Abigail again. As I said, I'm like, where are these people? They must be fine because they're not talking to me. But it's also been a great opportunity for me to see how our Cartagena operation is going, because obviously I'm in the Murcia campus. But and I know that you've been pioneers and you've been the pathfinders. So it can only be easier for the next intake, shall we say? Last in, best dressed, isn't that what they say? But anyway, it's also been a pleasure for me to see you, Mark and Abigail, and explain a bit about UCAM and put it out there and see what happens from here on. As we say, we have a few places here, so definitely come and talk to me or Mark. Mark first, and then me, and then we can see how we go.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm going to leave it there and let everybody get on with their evenings. But really, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.